right? They don't. These people who bought this thing don't even know that you have this thing over here. These people that bought your book don't even really know, unless they dig around on your website, that you offer, this consulting, right? So, like, we got to just tell them that.
Hey guys, Mike here from Sell Your Service. This mastermind session, I am talking to Ryan Deiss from Digital Marketer, the guy who invented the CVO, or Customer Value Optimization Funnel. We're going to be talking about how to sell and position. So Ryan Deiss is going to tell you how to sell and position the CVO funnel to your customers. This is massive. You need to watch this. He was an awesome guy to talk to, really chilled out. Remember, you can download the Ryan Deiss CVO sales playbook below. It's everything you need to basically position and sell the CVO funnel to your customers. That's totally free. You can access that below. In the meantime, let's just jump into it. Hey guys, Mike here, and I am very happy to announce that I'm here with Ryan Deiss from Digital Marketer. Ryan, how are you doing?
Doing great. Thanks for having me.
Fantastic. Thanks for being on. So I figured we'd kind of jump into this. Before we start, for the rare few people who don't know what you and Digital Marketer do, take us a bit through who you are and what they do.
Sure. So Digital Marketer is a digital marketing training and certifications company, and I think the thing that makes us different is lots of people, teach and talk about marketing, and that's great. There's lots of really good ideas, and I learned from a lot of different people as well. But what makes us different at DM, and kind of what's always made us unique in the marketplace, is we have a portfolio of companies that we own and operate, and so we're not like a lot of our contemporaries that are more on the research side or more on the journalistic side. We are in the trenches doing it, and so we generally report on here's what we did that worked and here's what we did that didn't work. So if you want your scientific stuff, there's places you can go for that. If you just kind of want to have somebody tell you what's working for them, then that's kind of what we do at DM, which means a lot of times we're wrong, by the way, because not everything that works for us is going to work for everybody else. But that's kind of, we're more in the, hey, let's go out and try some things and see what happens.
Yeah, and that to me is the biggest takeaway from DM, is that I see stuff being actually tested, and a lot of people are happy to position the theory. But you guys, what was it, something like last year, like $15 million on traffic testing or something ludicrous like that?
That's a lot more than that at this point. Yeah, those stats are getting pretty old at this point. But we spend a small fortune on tests because when we're trying something, it's one of the first times it's been attempted. And most of the time, there's lots of stuff that just doesn't work. So we gotta try it. We gotta test it.
No, that's wicked. And that's kind of what we're here to talk about today. Is a lot of our guys are moving from selling just websites. They know about Digital Marketer, the CVO, the broader concept of marketing funnels, and they want to start positioning that as a service and as a product towards their customers. But just kind of before we get into that, why does CVO matter? For those who don't know, it's Customer Value Optimization. Why does it matter? Why do you care about that,
Yeah, so I mean, to me, the one sort of indisputable law of business growth is that he or she who's able and willing to spend the most to acquire a customer wins.
Yep.
Right? Whoever is able to spend the most to acquire a customer, they win. I wish that in our world, the best product always won. That sadly is not the case. Mm-hmm. And so there's two ways that you can go about being able and willing to spend the most to acquire a customer. The first is to raise an enormous amount of money and to acquire customers at a loss. And if you look at companies like Uber, Uber is losing $1 billion a quarter, and they don't mind doing it because they've raised so much money, but they know that they're acquiring riders and they're acquiring drivers. And so it's a formula that works for them. It's an expense that they're willing, an investment, I should say, that they're willing to incur. Most business owners don't have that luxury. And certainly if you're, an agency or a consultant, the people that you would be working with generally don't have that luxury. So how do you make it to where they're able to do that, right? You have to focus on optimizing the value of each and every customer that comes through. So if business A, let's say you got two competitors, business A and business B. In business A, the average customer is worth $100, and business B, the average customer, is only worth $50. Well, simple math would tell you that business A is probably going to win because they can afford to spend $75 to acquire a customer and still have $25 left over, whereas business B doesn't. So that's the whole idea of customer value optimization. Now, I think something that's important to point out is that when we talk about value optimization, we're not merely talking about optimizing the extraction of value.
Yes.
I think that this is something that has been largely misused when you look at a lot of the upsell paths and different things that I'm sure we'll get into for how CVO is done. When you focus on optimizing value extraction, you can optimize yourself into some pretty dark places. You can wind up just frankly being an asshole, for lack of a better word. And I'm somebody who certainly, if you were to go back and look at some of the things that we were doing, a few years back, like, I'm not proud of it. People, just being totally 100% transparent with you, right? And it took some people that I really respected their opinion to say, Ryan, you're not delivering enough value here. So when we think about CVO, it's about optimizing both the value that you as the business are delivering, such that the customers return greater value to you as a part of the process. So I don't want to only say that it's about optimizing value for the purpose of being able and willing to acquire a customer. It's also about thinking through, and this is critical, how do we deliver maximum value? And we can spend some time talking about that. But if I didn't say it now, I'd run the risk of being misunderstood and have people go out and do some stupid crap like some of the stuff that we used to do.
Okay, so fair warning there, guys. And that's a really good point, I think, because it's much about making sure that the relationship between you and the customer is as balanced as possible, but making sure you get both sides get as most as they can from both parties. Awesome. So let's say, like I said, the majority of our guys, they have read about funnels. They're using various different softwares or WordPress, and this kind of concept of being able to see traffic, content, conversion, and email marketing, and all of those other things kind of come together. I was like, this is a one thing. This is a service. And a lot of guys get very excited about this and they want to start, kind of diving into it. What is it that we can start saying to our customers who maybe they've already just got a website and they know they want more results, but like your big thing is you don't have a traffic problem, right? And that to me is fascinating. Where do I start as an agency when it comes to actually putting a CVO into another customer's business?
Sure. So if we were to think about in simplistic terms, and it's really funny, if you look over this shoulder, right here,
yep.
I don't know if you can see that back there. That's the original $1 million napkin
That's
back there.
Awesome. Yeah. That's awesome.
And so if you go back to the original kind of, the original 5-step funnel, right? It was bring people in through some type of a lead capture device. So let's bring them in for a lead magnet. Then let's offer them a lower dollar entry point offer, what we've referred to as a tripwire, to create that customer. Then we can offer them our core offer. That's step 3. Then we can offer them a profit maximizer. So this is when we get into increasing the value of each customer. That's where profit maximizer. So upsells, add-ons, bundles, those types of things. That's step 4. And then step 5 is the return path, right? So how do we leverage follow-up and whether it's follow-up via email or phone or messenger, text, whatever it is, how do we leverage these different follow-up mechanisms that we have today to get people coming back? Now, most businesses, they want to start at either step 3 or step 4, right? They want to start off selling their most expensive item. And as a result of that, most consultants, most agencies, they'll meet with the client. The client says, okay, so I've got this high-end consulting, or I have this big event that we put on, and I want to get more people coming to that. And so they say, okay, we're going to build you a website to sell that. But what the business is essentially doing, it's the equivalent of proposing marriage. And so as an agency, what you're being asked to do is to essentially put together a marriage proposal for somebody on a very first date. And that's bad for all involved. From an agency perspective, it's really hard to pull that off. There's a good chance that you're going to fail. And there's a good chance that even though you were set up to fail from the beginning, the client is still going to blame you. And you've probably experienced this. If you've had clients that have asked for the impossible, and when you failed to deliver on the impossible because it was impossible, then now you're the jerk, right? You're the scammer. And so we don't want that. Now, so what a lot of agencies do is they say, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to get you more, we don't want to direct sell that. Let's try to just get you more leads, or let's try to get more people coming into the front end of your funnel. Now, the problem with that is it's very difficult. optimizing the front end of the funnel, because it's that initial meeting point, right? It's like, it's always easier to get a second date if you got the first, but the most difficult part is walking up to a stranger and saying, hi, I'm Ryan, what's your name? Right? Yeah. That's the hardest part. And so what is the equivalent of that relationship in a sales capacity, right? It's getting somebody who doesn't know who you are to come to your website first and foremost, maybe to watch a video, but then to opt in, right? That's hard to do. It doesn't mean that it can't be done, but it's hard to do. And furthermore, if you succeed, the client still hasn't made any more money. In fact, probably all they've done is they've spent money. So what I really encourage, we have a number of certified partners, agencies that we certify a digital marketer that we train. And what I tell them all to do is, when it comes to optimizing for a funnel, optimize at the end and go back. So optimize starting with the return path. Start with the return path. This is going to do a couple of things. Number one, it's going to ensure that you're working with clients that can be helped. Because if somebody has, if they have unconverted leads, or they have customers that haven't been followed up with, then guess what? They had something going on at some point, right? They had reached some level of product market fit. When somebody's brand new and just getting started and they want to hire you to, create a funnel for them, and they haven't sold anything ever, what they're effectively doing is saying, hey, I'd like to pay you the smallest amount of money possible so that you can build my business for me. Right. And then I'm just going to keep it all. Right. That sucks. Don't do that. Don't get in that business. Work with people who have already made sales almost in spite of themselves, in spite of their marketing, but then they're sitting there on these unconverted leads. And this could be, I don't know if you guys, have this where you are, but in the States, it's pretty common to walk into a local business and they've got like a fishbowl with business cards in it. Just drop their business cards in, right? If they have that, that's something, right? You can take those business cards, you can drop them into a CRM. I mean, ideally they have some kind of a CRM in place that shows that they have made some investment in technology, which is another great filter for you. But if they have some leads, if those leads are in some type of a CRM or autoresponder, it's a great, crazy filter, right? The chance of that person being completely crazy, completely irrational, having a total crap product, just went down to almost nothing. But then from your perspective, what you're able to do is send some basic email follow-up and drive sales day one. Now, is it a fully fleshed out funnel? No, of course not. But you get to make an impact right there from the beginning. Even if they don't get a sale, maybe their phone rings, right? Maybe there's some new leads coming in to their funnel, reactivating. Maybe some sales do occur. Now, congratulations, you're a hero. And it doesn't cost them anything to do that. You're emailing and following up with the leads that they already have. But now what just happens, if that works, you automate it. You say, okay, great. Moving forward, anybody who signs up, we're just going to do this and make sure that it happens automatically, right? So now you can go and you can charge them to do the automation and the implementation. You could say, okay, this seems to be working really well. Now let's get you more. Right? Now let's get you more. Let's optimize. So begin at the end and optimize back to the beginning. Everybody wants to go the opposite direction. It's really hard. And unless you have somebody who has a significant investment and really gets this stuff, which only no clients do, by the way, then you're going to be fighting an uphill battle.
So that to me is fascinating, because all too often the easiest customers to get are the ones who are A, not making any money themselves already, or B, they're just starting out, and those are the guys, and we've learned this the hard way. We can only add massive value to people who are already kind of getting results. I kind of think the difference between gaining momentum and using momentum that's already there. So starting at the end.
If you're a car that ran out of gas, right? I mean, you had to push it, right? Once it was going, it was much easier. And that's, look, you can work with. There's a billion clients out there. I know in the US alone, there's 5.1, I think, million businesses with more than one employee, but under 100. And that's just in the States, right? I mean, there's a lot of companies out there that you can help. Be selective and do the ones that you can really be a hero for.
That's interesting about the focus, because again, this is it's a double-edged sword. The CVO does work essentially for every business, but as an agency, it's surely going to be my job to find one type of customer and get results for them. Right.
Well, and I think you bring up a good point, right? The idea of verticalizing.
Yes.
So again, going back to our certified partners, we have certified partners that only specialize in dentists, right?
Yep.
We have certified partners that only specialize in like alternative health practitioners. We have certified partners that only specialize in car dealerships, right? Now they're all pulling from the same playbook. But if you get really good at serving one type of business, it just becomes so easy to go in and to duplicate that again and again and again.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really, really smart strategy.
Yeah, again, it's interesting that, because I think part of the problem is we want to kind of jump from business to business because it looks like they're getting momentum. But we, for example, one of our agencies works specifically with just healthcare insurance providers, and in the States alone, there's like over 1 million of them. And we're like, that's a big enough market.
Yeah, you will never run out of those people.
Yeah. So let's say we've started at the return path. We've worked our way backwards. What are some of the typical roadblocks or problems that me as someone who's implementing the CVO is going to come across? I mean, I know 2 or 3 that I keep hitting, but what about you?
So the return, I like the return path because it's easy, right? Writing a simple, and I recommend just craft a simple 3-part email follow-up series to go out to people to get them to take the action that they just stop short of, right? That's kind of the first one. And I would start with people who bought something but didn't buy something else, right? Let's get the people who bought one thing to then buy something else. That's return path. Next, let's get the people who maybe subscribed or signed up but haven't bought anything to buy one thing. So that's kind of step 1. Then step 2, working our way back. We're building a return path along the way.
Yeah.
Now what you can potentially do is help your client to come up with additional profit maximizers. Now, this can be difficult because it requires them to create something.
Yes.
You find that you get significant pushback there. Now, a lot of times, it's not a case of creating more. It's a case of looking and saying, okay, everybody who bought this really should have bought this thing over here, but we're not talking about it. Right? These people who bought this thing don't even know that you have this thing over here. These people that bought your book don't even really know, unless they dig around on your website, that you offer, this consulting. Right? So, like, we got to just tell them that. So now let's have a video of you on the thank you page when somebody buys this thing, mentioning that you have that. Like, so let's automate that. So that's a good place to go next. If you can get them, the more things that you can do without them having to do anything, the better, right?
Yeah.
But I would try to fully optimize that. Again, the return path, profit maximizer. You can look and do some conversion rate optimization of their core offer, if that's something that you're good at. But try to do, and on the landing page for the subscription, but try to do all of that before you go back and work on traffic, because traffic is the first time when you're going to ask them to make a significant investment. Even if you're really, really, really good. We're really, really good at this stuff. But early on in the test, we have things that fail and things that don't work, and you will too. And if you haven't built up a backlog of wins, and if you don't prepare them for, look, we're going to invest $5,000-$10,000 in this on a test, and we'll see what happens. And I may lose all of it before we figure that out, right? Are you prepared to accept that? Just follow in that order, because the second you ask them to work, that's going to be a giant roadblock. The second that you ask them for money, that's going to be another big roadblock. Yeah,
and it's again, this kind of comes back to who do you serve, because you might as well pick a market that is willing to invest in their potential future growth, as opposed to the kind of the penny pinchers.
Yeah, because ideally they're already investing in traffic, right? Yeah, that would be another thing. So I kind of the filters that we encourage for our certified partners is they have unconverted leads and leads, prospects, and customers, right? They have people who have bought something but didn't buy another thing, or they have people who signed up for something but didn't buy it. So they have some unconverted leads. Those leads are in some type of CRM or autoresponder. So now I know they got something going on. I know that they've made a commitment and investment to technology. So they're not completely locked in the Stone Age. And then the third thing is they are spending some money on advertising. Right? It doesn't even have to be Facebook or Google, although that would be nice. But a lot of times, if you see that they're just investing some money in maybe radio ads or direct mail, then maybe what you could do is say, let's divert some of this budget. Let's reallocate some of this budget. The point is, they've set aside a budget for growth. They've set aside a budget for advertising. So you're not asking them to spend new money. You're maybe asking them to repurpose an investment that they're already making. Those are the 3 big filters that we look for.
Yeah, that's good. That's really good. And again, interesting. It's about the difference between working with businesses who are already getting results, and it's kind of your job to accelerate those results as opposed to kind of get them started up. You mentioned about bringing people back and kind of getting them to do the profit maximizer, and it was exactly as I suspected. As soon as it's a bit of work on their behalf, particularly around content creation, that broader thing of content creation, there's a big roadblock there. Sometimes we struggle kind of positioning the benefits and the results of doing that, and motivating them is one thing. That's either going to happen or it's not. But what are some of the things that we can say to them? Like, why are we doing this? If they already think, yeah, but we've already got a product. Like, why would I want to go ahead and do more,
Yeah, I mean, we say a product does not a business make. I mean, if you want to, do you want to be a one-hit wonder, or do you want to build a brand? Do you want to be the guy that designed the piano key tie, or do you want to be Chanel? Right. So in all of these things, if you look at every great company, they have multiple things for their people to buy. And the reality is the single greatest cost that just about any business is going to incur is the cost of customer acquisition. Right. Now, there are distinctions out there. If you're in pharmaceuticals, right, then R&D is probably one of your biggest costs. But if you're a service provider or a local business, the greatest cost that you're going to have is when you acquire that very first customer. But the beautiful thing is, once that cost is incurred, once you have them on a list, getting them to buy again, that's where all your money is. That's where all your margin is. So if somebody only has one product and they're dead set on, like, this is it, this is the only thing they're going to have, and that one product isn't a subscription product, then that's not a client I would take, because they're not going to be in business for very long. Now, they may say, yeah, but we don't have time to do this, in which case, okay, then can we wholesale somebody else's product? Can we be an affiliate for somebody else? Can we license or publish somebody else's product? Let's try to do a deal, because even if the margins aren't great, then at least we can prove that it's worth doing. I'll give you an example that for something that has nothing to do with information. We owned an industrial water filter manufacturing company for a time. So manufactured giant solution filters that would go into like desalinization plants and things like that. Now, all of these water filters go into these giant stainless steel housings, literally housings that are about the size of me. Like, they're the size of a person. These huge filters go down in them. So people would ask us, do you sell the stainless steel housings? And we'd say, no, we only make water filters. And at first, like, the guy that we bought the company for, who was still the CEO at the time, said, no, we can't sell the housings because, that's not what we do. We don't make those, and there's no margin in them. It's like, well, but our people are asking for it. So why don't we wholesale them from somebody else, even if the margins are terrible? If we find that that people are buying them, then maybe we can make a financial argument for, we should either direct import housings ourselves, or we should manufacture. We should go back and negotiate a better, wholesaling deal. But to get a profit maximizer, even if you don't have to make it, even if your margins are terrible, just to prove that your audience wants it, then you go back and say, okay, now can we make our own? Because clearly, if this were ours and we were keeping all the money, we'd be making a lot more.
Yeah. And it's interesting that the difference between many products and services for one customer is very, very different, and evidently more profitable than lots of different products. Trying to go across lots of different places and lots of different people at once, and trying to sell the same thing to multiple different customer verticals. I'm sure that it does work, but one of the things...
It's a super expensive way to do business. Yeah.
Cool.
No, business is
defined
by the markets they sell, not by the markets they serve, not the products they sell.
Yeah.
I think you should, if you're working with people who they can clearly identify, this is the market, this is the audience that we serve, then you don't define your business. Apple didn't define their business by the computer. Right? They said now at this point they can make anything because they serve a particular market. So getting clear on who you serve, now you don't have sacred cows for your products, right? If your audience decides they want something else, that's cool. You're there to serve them. You're not there to serve your product.
Now, so this is my notebook's already like full of stuff, right? The difference between, I want to wrap it up quickly because I know you're a super busy guy. The difference between when people see on the front end, I find a lot of my customers, and this is the biggest problem that my customers talk to me about their agency customers is, hey, and it was just like you said, hey, I can see people doing Facebook advertisings and lead magnets and loads of blog content and videos and stuff, and we want to do all this kind of stuff, and we've done this where we've invested heavily on the front end, and just like you said, when those leads and subscribers are coming in, they just fall out the bottom of a funnel. No one's contacting them. They are wasting money twice almost. What's the way, silver bullet, that we can combat that with? Because it's very sexy to do the stuff up front. It's like an ego pull, to see your own advert up there. How do we make sure that we do focus on the stuff that works?
Yeah, so it's always that rub of getting people what they want versus what they need.
Yeah.
And sometimes in the beginning, to establish the relationship, you have to give somebody what they simply want. But if you give them what they want without the caveat of, this is not what you need, I will do this for you, but when it doesn't get the results, then can we do the thing that I want to do?
Cool.
That again is another filter. So what we teach our certified partners at digital marketers, our agency partners, we equip them with a 73-point checklist, right? And this checklist, it goes down all the little tactical things you could be doing, right? Are we doing YouTube? Are we doing YouTube ads? Are we doing podcasting? Are we, doing ride-alongs? And literally, it is a brain dump of everything that you could be doing.
Yeah.
So that it's designed to allow these business owners to have shiny object syndrome in a controlled space.
Very good.
Right? So, here's all things that we could be doing.
Yeah.
Now, where do you want to start? Do you want to start by improving some of the stuff that you're already doing? Or do you want to switch to doing something totally new? Now, a rational person is going to say, maybe we should start with the things that we already have some momentum. If you're talking to, again, I teach our certified partners, say, I really want to do podcasting, right? And in the back of your mind, you're thinking, you're a dentist. Nobody cares about right? Yeah. But you could say to them, okay, that's fine, but do you think that that's where we should start?
Yeah.
I'm not saying that we shouldn't do that at some point, but do you think that's where we should start? Because I know, my goal for you, Mr. and Mrs. Business Owner, is to make you more money as quickly as possible. Because if we could do that, then we've got more money to dump into some of these other things, and then it becomes, it begins to grow exponentially, right? So it's like compounding interest kind of thing. So where do you think we can start that's gonna really move the needle in terms of revenue the fastest? And if you go through that thought experiment long enough, eventually where people come back to is, maybe we should just email the people that we already have and get them to buy the thing we already have. Yeah. Right? It's no money, it's no work. And if the business owner never comes to that, or if you propose it and they're like, but I still don't want to do that. I want to do, I've been watching Gary Vaynerchuk and I want to do my own Ask the Dentist special where it's going to be me in front of the thing. I'm going to be cussing a lot. Because that's what Gary V does. Then you're dealing with the delusional nutcase, right? Yep. Not to say that Gary's a good friend of mine, right? I love Gary. It makes sense for Gary. But if you're Bob the dentist, right, that's probably not where you should start.
Yes.
Yep. Right? You're probably not that interesting or that charismatic. And at the end of the day, you're wanting to fix people's teeth.
Yeah.
They don't need to hear you talk about this stuff, right? So I think that's a really good filter. So just giving them the opportunity to do a brain dump of what are all the things that you want to do, and then validate those things. But then, and then say, okay, great. I think we can do these, but let's do this other thing first, because that's going to give us more resources to do this thing that you want. It's sort of like with my kids, right? They really want a cookie, and I'm telling them you have to eat your vegetables first.
Yep.
Now, I think there's a lot of people from an HC perspective who don't want to do that, but that's positioning.
Yeah.
Right? That's you saying, I'm a professional here. That's kind of what you're paying me for.
Yep.
This is what I recommend. If you are totally unwilling to take my advice, then we're probably not going to be a good fit moving forward, and better for you to have figured that out sooner rather than later.
Absolutely.
So give them the opportunity to brain dump, validate that it's a good idea, but then speak more to the timing and the sequence of it, not is it good or bad. Yep, great idea. Podcast, freaking love it. Everybody's going to love the idea of listening to a dentist on a podcast, right?
Yeah, they love it, yeah.
But let's send an email to your patients first and see if they want to come in for a teeth whitening. Yeah. Let's start there.
It's funny that because we recently did some work with AICPA and all their courses and stuff, and they were mad interested in doing all this kind of webinars and training and stuff. And I was like, cool. How often are you emailing your guys? Telling them? They're like, oh, we don't email them at all. I'm like, I think I might know. But that's cool that they want to do all this kind of stuff. But what we found as well is once we start getting results in one direction, all of a sudden the other stuff, they kind of forget about it. They're not as fervent about it anymore because they see the stuff that's working, Yeah.
And again, it's a crazy filter, right?
Yeah.
If you think about, if you've got clients right now, if you were to think, how much more revenue could you generate? How much more time would you have if you just didn't have to deal with the crazies, right? These are filters, and I think it's critical to have filters.
Yeah, no, that's good. Yeah, and qualification, I mean, that's a big part of it. But again, I really feel for some agencies, because qualification kind of, maybe they think, oh, well, that's a bit above my station to say no to certain customers, but it's vital to your own growth, right?
Well, look, at some point, everybody's got to eat, right?
Yeah.
So sometimes you got to take a crappy client because they're willing to write you a check today and nobody else. You don't have to keep them forever. There's no law saying that you can't fire a client.
I like that.
And I think it's important to remember that when you say yes to something, you are, whether you realize it or not, saying no to something else. Okay. So when you say yes to a client that isn't in the right person, you're down the road. You are saying no to a potentially better client that you're never going to meet. Because you're not going to be out there prospecting and doing all these things because this pain in the ass guy is taking up all of your time. Or if you do meet them, you're not going to see them for the benefit that they are because you're thinking like, I don't have time. I can't take on any more clients right now. And the reality is you've got way more capacity. You just got somebody that's sucking up the bulk of it. So if you are taking somebody that you shouldn't, just at least acknowledge it. Right?
Yeah.
Would I steal bread if my kids were starving? Yes. Of course. Yes, I would steal bread. Right? Would I continue stealing bread once I got a job? No. Right? So, it's like in that case, I'm not defining myself as a thief. I'm doing what I got to do to feed my children. Yeah. Right? I'm willing to do lots and lots of things to feed my children. Yeah. But at some point you got to get out of that mindset of, okay, I'm not a thief. At some point you got to get out of that mindset of, okay, you're not this broke, desperate, chump who's just willing to be everybody else's servant, right? You're a professional. And the sooner you adopt that mindset and that positioning, the better you'll get at frankly converting the clients that you want.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. We'll start to wrap up there. That was. And what's interesting is that's got nothing to do with the CVO model. It's mindset stuff, which is, that's awesome. So you mentioned at the start, and you say this repeatedly, whoever spends the most to acquire a customer wins ultimately, and that's kind of the main philosophy behind the CVO. Yeah.
Yes. All right. Yeah. Awesome. I mean, that's the basic idea behind CVO is being able and willing to spend more to acquire a customer, and the way that you do that is by delivering more. If you deliver extreme value in your product, and then you offer somebody, and that's a positive return on that customer's investment, then what do they want to do? They want to invest more in you. Yeah. So in continuing to roll out new products to them, as long as it's valuable, as long as the ROI is there, then they want you to do that. People who love Apple want Apple to come up with new products. Yes. Right? Yes. So don't think that you're not doing your clients a disservice by coming up with new things for them to buy. You're doing them a service as long as you are delivering value over and above what you ask for in return.
Very cool. Okay, and of course those 5 stages being lead magnet, tripwire, core offer, profit maximizer, and return path. Just on that, interestingly, return path, you mentioned things other than email marketing. I think a lot of marketers just focus on email marketing, but you mentioned phone calls there, going out having meetings. It's not just about digital as much as that has a role to play, right?
Right. I mean, it's follow-up. I mean, it's making sure that, congratulations, you got their number, right? Let's bring it all back to dating and relationship, right? Yep. Cool. Good job, dude. You got her number.
Probably
are you just collecting business so you can brag to your buddies, or are you going to actually, call her or send her a text so that you can get a date? Okay, great. You got a date. Yeah. Are you just about collecting first dates? That sucks. First dates are terrible. That's great. Right? What is the goal? Right? What is your goal? Whatever it is, it's going to require follow-up. And so follow-up in whatever means possible. I'll tell you, Messenger, I think is going to be every bit as big as email in the coming years. If there's one place that I was going to focus on from a tactical perspective with regard to agencies, I would be looking very closely at Messenger. Mm-hmm. Yes, things like bots as well, but really just, following up and hitting up people on Facebook Messenger and the different messenger apps. It's not going to replace email. No. Okay. This is not, anybody who says like the people said social would replace email. No, it's different, right? It's different, but that's something you need to be paying attention to. Retargeting.
Yes.
Retargeting is a form of follow-up. That is a type of return path. When you show ads to people who came to a page but didn't buy, that is return path. That's trying to get them to come back. So it's every aspect of, it touches every aspect of digital, but it also is sometimes just picking up the phone and making a call if that's what's appropriate.
Awesome. And when we land those customers, we want to try and start, everyone else wants to start at their core offer or profit maximizer, but really we want to start optimizing their return path. Is that right?
Yeah. And it may be optimizing, the return path can also be used to encourage consumption of an offer so that the sale sticks.
Yes.
That's an aspect of Ascension, right? Maybe you take on a client, their refund rate is really, really high, and their product is good, but people just aren't implementing it. So you need to create more of an onboarding type process, right? That's getting them to come back to consume. So it's not just come back to buy more, it's come back to consume so that the sale sticks, especially critical in the subscription market.
That's awesome. Yeah, start the return path. That's really good. So we focus on customers, and we have our crazy filter. We focus on perhaps a vertical.
I hope people aren't offended by that, but I think we're real agencies. You know what it is to have a crazy client, right? There are people. The idea the customer is always right is crap. There's oftentimes they're just flat wrong and they're irrational and they're jerks, and I refuse to tolerate that. It's fine. You can just have your money back.
Absolutely.
You don't get to steal my soul or my dignity.
And a lot of the time we have left businesses because our managers are like that, and now we start up a business and then we think, now I've got to deal with customers like this. You don't. You absolutely do not.
Yeah, you don't. You don't have to deal with anything.
Yeah.
You generally don't have to do what you don't want to do for an extended period of time. Sometimes you got to do things that really suck and are really hard, things you don't want to do in the short term because you got to eat. But I would equate it back to stealing bread.
Yeah.
Right. You're stealing bread to feed your family. Like you are not a thief moving forward.
Yeah. No, I get that. Awesome. So just so much here. We're gonna have to wrap this up because you are a crazy busy guy, of course. Where can people learn more about Digital Marketer and you? Because I know you've got the book as well, Invisible Sales Machine, which I think is obviously brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, digitalmarketer.com is the first place I would start. If you're an agency and I'd love to chat with you about. We realize, because our mission at Digital Marketer is we want to double the size of 10,000 businesses by 2020. We recognize that to do that, we need to partner with agencies, because as good as our stuff is, it gets businesses about 90% of the way there. That last 10% where they've got to customize it and make it their own, that's really, really tough. It's tough for a business owner who doesn't just love marketing. It's tough for business owners who love marketing but are really busy. So they need the help of professionals, of marketing professionals, of agencies. And so we really, we recognize that at Digital Marketer, I think now like our flagship event, Traffic and Conversion Summit, agencies make up almost half of the attendees at that event now.
Yeah, I bet.
And we love that because for us, that's the ultimate leverage. So we love working with agencies. So if you're an agency, there's a little partners link at the top, check that out. Love to maybe get you a listing in our directory or something like that.
Very cool.
So digitalmarketer.com is a good place to start. We have, you mentioned the Invisible Selling Machine book, which is available on Amazon, and Digital Marketing for Dummies, which is a book that we wrote here that it is not for dummies. It is just a dang good book on the fundamentals of marketing. And it could be a great book to give to your clients, with the caveat, of course, that you're not saying they're a dummy, but it really sets up the idea of the funnel and the importance of it. So if you want us to help sell some of your people for you, then those are some maybe good resources to give them.
Yeah, that's cool. That's good. That's a really good idea, actually. Yeah. And this is how I kind of am trying to grow these mastermind sessions. Any ideas about who I could interview next along a similar topic?
Yeah, I mean, my good friend and for over a decade, Frank Kern,
big man.
I think he'd be worth talking to because, one, he's really good at client acquisition.
Yes.
So we're better at selling stuff. I don't own an agency myself. We're not on the services side. So I understand how to sell things in general. And now, having worked and supported our agency partners for a while, we can give them really good, feedback and insights, hopefully some of the things like what you've heard here. But Frank is really a master when it comes to client acquisition and positioning, expert positioning. And the approach that he takes to a funnel is different than the approach that we take. Because we're typically out there selling widgets a lot of times. So it's different. It doesn't mean that I'm right, he's wrong, or he's right and we're wrong. It's a different perspective. And it's a perspective that I frankly really appreciate. And why he's not just a friend. He's, somebody that I go to for advice. So I think Frank could be a good guy.
Yeah,
and I can probably connect you.
Pretty awesome
he's
to me.
Cagey guy though. So
all right,
we'll see. He doesn't get out much.
No, we'll do our best. All right.
Yeah.
Ryan, thank you so much for joining us. I know that all my guys, I've already got like messages coming through saying when is this going to be released, because people were really, really into this. So thank you so much for coming on board.
Good. Thank you again for having me. Hopefully everybody gets something from it and goes out there and helps a lot of other businesses grow, because they need it and the world needs it. So Thank you everybody out there for the work that you're doing to help build the whole world economies. So.
Awesome. Cheers guys, and we'll see you later. Bye everybody.
Bye.
How good was that? He was just this amazing guy to talk to, really chilled out, he went over his time limit as well, just so he could wrap stuff up with us. Remember, there is the Ryan Deiss CVO sales playbook below, which basically just recaps everything we learned in the mastermind session there, and Ryan takes you through how to sell and position a CVO funnel to your customers. In the meantime, I will sign off and leave you guys there. Speak to you later. I'm Mike from Sell Your Service.